be side-by-side coming down, and it's going to be Caleb Hall taking it.
For only the second time this season, the Solstice ProLine Cup Series leaves the United States as we find ourselves north of the border in Ontario, Canada. After being resurrected last year, after 10 years of dormancy, the Solstice ProLine drivers arrived to the Jukasa Speedway with a new challenge to tackle, and there's 2 races left to the end of the season. Michael Frisch hopes to soar away like he has all season long, but not if Cosman and Chris Wetz can help it. Cosman won the last time out on a short oval down in Pensacola, Florida at 5 Flags, and he hopes to seal another victory. Wetz was a dark horse last week in Rockingham, but fell short after a late caution. But who will shine under the lights here in Canada? We have 130 laps on this 0.6-mile oval, as it's Brandon Nicholson on pit lane with Dylan Livingood alongside me in the commentary box. I am Josh Mertz, welcoming you to live flag-to-flag coverage on High Voltage Media Productions tonight from Canada. As through qualifying, Jeremy Stanley on pole at a 19.717, but the big story is 4 cars are in that 0.7 second bracket, and Dylan, what can we expect tonight?
Well, I mean, all those drivers that you named off on that list are all top-level guys here at Solstice Racing, and so really it's hard to pick a favorite off that list, although Cosman is really good at short tracks. You did mention that in the opening bit there. I mean, it's just going to be action-packed like it always has been. Watch for that first rush for the stage break, and we'll see what playoff drivers can get through.
As 2 stages tonight, we're going to go till lap 50 for the end of stage 1, and the race distance was lengthened by 5 laps. It's now 130 laps to the race finish. Points coming in. Hopefully the director will pull this graphic up. Coming into tonight's race, Michael Frisch has 3,031 points over Chris Wetz with 3,029. Cosman has 3,029 as well. Poulins with 16 and Bailey with 14. Big thing here is, if the graphic is up, like I mentioned, you're going to notice there's a little winners times 6 next to Michael Frisch, and there's nothing next to Chris Wetz, and there's 1 next to Cosman. Frisch has won in Nazareth, Homestead, New Hampshire, Colorado, Indianapolis, and Rockingham. And it was noticed and announced in the paddock earlier on that Cosman's not going to be here next week. So realistically, I think it's Chris Wetz versus Frisch for this title.
You know, and like we've mentioned throughout the season, Wetz won in this last format with the same type of racing. Give you that, you know, the regulations have changed a little bit to where the cars drive differently, but Wetz knows how to get it done in this situation, and when you look, he's only 2 points behind here. I'm staring at the graphic right now. I mean, it could be either of those guys' race here to the finish. It's really going to take Frisch to be on top of his game here on out for him to try to defend this championship run that he's had going on all season.
As Cosman is fastest in happy hour, 19.059. Then it's Ricky Johnson at an 8.02. Jeremy Stanley at an 8.41. Nick Baker at a 19.964. And it looks like the 37 car of Vincenzo Focissato, I believe that's his first start this season, he is in 5th in happy hour right now, as Frisch ran a 20.572.
No, actually, Josh, I do believe he did run one previous race. I just can't put my finger under which one he did.
As come to think of it, I think he actually ran in Colorado because I was racing against him, I believe. Take it with a grain of salt. It's been a decently long season here for the Solstice ProLine Cup Series. As I'm so happy, and I mention this every week, but I'm so happy that we're able to do this every week, and it's certainly been a blast as we round out this season here in High Voltage Media Productions. As Dylan Bonney, we had him last week. He had prior commitments work schedule not playing too nice with him, so hopefully we'll get him back for the finale in Atlanta and have the full crew to bring you. We're going to get a little bit of extended coverage, give you a little bit more of a pre-race show next week as we profile all of the drivers competing for this championship.
Yeah, and Josh, one of the things I love is, that we're coming back for next season. That's the biggest thing, is we're coming back. We're going to present you guys this awesome coverage here. And I can't wait, because we have a whole bunch of really, really, really good things coming in the works for next season. As
pushing the boundaries of sim racing coverage, and with the specific NASCAR 2003 simulations, is what we like to do here on High Voltage Media Productions. We are rounding out happy hour. It's about 2 minutes, 20 seconds left to go as everyone's getting their final preparations. We have a couple drivers, Jake Poulin and Dylan Poteet, have their entry blanks entered in, but I believe both of them are having issues. They are down in the paddock right now, trying to get those cars finished up and getting ready to race. So I believe, if I do a quick count, I think we're going to have about 12 cars if everyone can get going here. But the field's dwindled just a little bit, but I know I've said this for the past 3 or 4 weeks, but I like these fields. Dylan Poteet actually just cleared his entry blank. I see the crew finishing up the car there, so it looks like we're just missing Jake Poulin right now in the 21.
Yeah, but Josh, an interesting point to add to those blanks and the entry. I mean, those guys intend to run. Look at last week's F1 race. Lewis Hamilton had all those issues down on grid and was able to overcome those. And I mean, give the finish what you will, but he ended up.
Don't get me started on that. Don't get me started on that.
As I'm totally on your side with that thing, but no, I mean, these guys can have issues on grid and come back and do great things just because they have a tremendous amount of talent and a good operation behind them. So,
as like we've mentioned all season long, you can join the conversation with hashtag ProLine on HVMP, as we certainly like to have some user involvement here on High Voltage Media Productions here in Jukasa. This track's pretty interesting. It's 0.6 miles, so it's right around the same size, if not a little bit bigger than Five Flags, but it's got a curved back straightaway, I noticed. So it's almost, I mean, granted, these tracks are entirely different in size, but Chicagoland's got a curved back straightaway. So how does that change a driver's mentality?
I mean, these drivers really like coming into these places that have a little bit of characteristic to them. And this is the perfect example of it. I mean, you look at a lot of other leagues out there, they don't run a track like this. Solstice does. And especially when it's our first time here at Solstice, coming to this race, I mean, it adds a lot of intensity because it's unique to the series, it's unique to the racing that we do. And so everyone's going to want to win this race.
As quickly through the qualifying order, Jeremy Stanley, Chris Wetz on the front row of the grid. Then it's Cosman, Michael Frisch, Brandon Lambert, Ricky Johnson, Joey Bailey, Vincent Fochisato. Then it's Poulin, Baker, Poteet. So all 11 cars that have entered today's race will be racing, as the 21 and 22 teams did finish and clear tech. As we have about 10 seconds left until everyone starts to grid. And then 130 laps here on High Voltage Media Productions, and this is going to be a really good race. As
drivers,
if you're new here on High Voltage Media Productions, there's going to be a couple cars with the blue banners, blue spoilers, blue valence. Those are our playoff contenders as we begin the penultimate round of the championship. As Chris Wetz here on the outside pole in car number 71. That's actually a really good paint scheme for him. It's glad to see that he's actually getting some funding for this championship run. For the longest time, I was wondering if Unicorn Money was sponsoring the 71. Is Jeremy Stanley on pole position. Cosman Ionescu and Michael Frisch, top 2 in points on the second row of the grid. Then it is Brandon Lambert with Ricky Johnson on the third row, Joey Bailey and Vincent Fotistato. Then Jake Poulin, Nick Baker, Dylan Poteet, as we start to rev the engines in Canada.
Gentlemen, start!
the engines come to life. This
All right, guys,
is
let's go out there and have a
going
good
to be
day today. We all go out there and do our job and have a nice solid finish.
As interestingly, as Poulin's in the back of the field, Wetz, Cosman, Frisch, Bailey, and Poulin. Bailey missed last week in Rockingham. He's down on points. And with Cosman going to miss next week, I'm not sure what entirely is going to happen. A little bit short on gridding. Pace cars off. Stanley and Wetz will lead us to begin 130 laps for the penultimate round of the championship here in Canada. Green flag. Into turn one, side by side. Stanley with Wetz. Wetz looks like he clears him, and the man from Texas takes the lead.
Yeah, and Frisch stuck out on the outside there.
As we'll keep Brandon Nicholson down on pit lane, keeping up on points all night long. We know that Wetz needs these points. I believe you get a point for leading a lap, and this is crucial if he wants to stay ahead of Frisch.
Yeah, and Josh, I do know this is a little bit of an opportune time as the race just started, but there's some construction going around, and it's just sending a bad frequency through my monitors, so just with the noise that they're producing, I have to step away for a sec.
As Chris Wetz leads with Jeremy Stanley, Michael Frisch in third, Cosman fourth, fifth is Lambert, Bailey in sixth, and the 51. Side by side, Ricky Johnson with Dylan Poteet. Poteet dove on the inside of the 93, using the apron there in turns 3 and 4 to get the cars to rotate, but Johnson holds that spot. We're going to have to look and see if Michael Frisch, he's going to go up a little bit higher to try and get by Stanley. We know Stanley doesn't care about the playoff drivers. He wants to win all these races for himself. But Stanley's a car length back to Wetz, as Wetz pulling away in the 71. We saw last week in Rockingham how he pulled away to a huge lead, and that kind of hurt him in the grand scheme of things, as tires were eaten alive in Rockingham. As now it's about a car length and a half from Wetz to Stanley. As Bailey in sixth. We have 4 cars within a second. Lambert got a little loose there in the 46, sent him up the hill. As Bailey takes the inside of Cosman now. They are battling for the 4th position. As still Wetz leads. Side by side now, Frisch with Stanley. As Stanley on the bottom, Frisch is going to power his way past on the outside. What a move by the points leader. And I think that we're going to see that a lot tonight. There's slightly more banking. It's slightly progressed from the bottom to the top. And the top, even with that 1 to 2 degrees, you could certainly get a run and pass a guy.
Well, yeah, and Josh, he really took over that deficit that he had at the restart.
As they're constructing in the HBMP compound, so if it comes across any one of our mics, we told them that they can't entirely do it at this time slot, and the construction company said, well, this is the only time slot we have, so we have to take what we can get, really, as we are improving the studio for those future shows next season.
Yeah, and like we said in the opening bit, we really do have a whole lot of really good things that are going to happen this next season, so thank you guys for your continued viewership, and we'll see you guys next season.
As Bailey on the inside of Stanley now, the man who we thought would take the fight to Frisch. As, I mean, all hope is not lost for the 51, but he's got to have a miracle, especially after losing or missing last week in Rockingham. As he's on the inside of the 60 of Stanley. It looks like he will not clear him exiting 2. We're on lap 12 now. He will not clear the 60 until he goes into turn 3. And still, as we look out the commentary box window, he clears him on lap 12, exiting turn 4, beginning 13. So now it's playoff drivers in the top 4 spots. Interestingly, Poulin is in 9th position, so the Daytona winner is not having a good day. We have 11 cars here. Vincent Fotosato in 11th. He's running about around the same lap times as the leader, actually, about half a second off. So the 37 crew, it's been a while for them.
Drivers, to your
So
cars.
I think that he is just having some issues getting up to speed in the 37. Frisch is catching Wetz. If we look at the last lap, 19.995 to a 19.933. 934 to a 20 flat. So these guys are running the same lap times, it looks like, roughly. Cosman's at a 20. Bailey's at a 19.91. And maybe they start moving up the hill to try and get the added momentum. You got to get this, when the tires wear, at least I'd like to think, when the tires wear, you want to have the banking carry you through the corners. As Bailey gets a good run off of turn 2 to the inside of Cosman, this is battling for third. And Cosman, who's second place in points, realistically now third place in points, is drifting away from his closest competitors. It's interesting to see. I'm not sure if you're in front of your monitor or if you're dealing with the construction crew, but it's interesting to see that Cosman's in 4th. He was dominant in 5 Flags in Pensacola.
Yeah, I know, and he really had a good run there in final practice. I'm surprised that he hasn't really been able to get around some of the guys who he needs to get around.
He's the slowest out of the playoff drivers, including Poulin, who was caught in traffic back in 9th. So Cosman not having a good day. He was on pace with Wetz there. Bailey and Frisch were at 19.9. Frisch is, I think Frisch is just sitting and waiting. I mean, he knows that he has a gap over Wetz. I think this is going to come down really to Frisch not wanting to push it. I mean, he'll probably want to win the title in style if he gets there, of course. But he also, I'd like to think, would just kind of cruise and do what he has to do to win the championship.
Yeah, I mean, but really, I mean, this championship comes down to these front 2 here, so these guys aren't going to let anything go.
As the gap is 0.2 of a second. From Wetz to Frisch. Frisch is there in the 58. They're coming up on Focisato in the 37. As the 37 struggling there. To the inside of Wetz goes Frisch off of turn 4. Frisch had a bumper there. And now he tries it again.
He has the whole car now.
And he went.
Oh, no!
Each other. And the points leaders are around on lap 22. Caution is out.
You know, and you want to reclaim your spot in your ground here in this championship, but you don't want to do it like that.
That was huge.
Obviously, a little too antsy there by the 58.
Obviously, we have 100 laps to go, but I think, let me look at my monitor here. Let me see. Of course, we're going to pull it up for the viewers to see, but I think he didn't bump him into the corner. I think Wetz just gave him the spot, and Frisch just overdrove it. I mean, he was trying really hard, and the car just didn't have the grip, and it turned them both.
Yeah,
as Poulin.
Ooh, there we go, yeah.
Poulin stays out in the 21. As we're halfway through the first stage, let's see what pit strategy will transpire here. Jeremy Stanley gets that first pit box in the 60s. Stopped very short, but the crew's still going to service him. That's as Lambert leaves the pit lane. Is he taking 2 tires? He is. And Lambert gets put up to second. Bailey going to be third. Cosman fourth. 5th is Stanley. 6th Johnson. 7th Poteet. 8th Wetz. 9th Baker. Fochisato's 10th. And now Frisch back to 11th as he claimed that wreck. As Poulin looks like he just wanted to lead a lap. So the 21 down pit lane now. So I think that's his strategy, because Poulin, like we mentioned, with Wetz leading that first lap at the very beginning, you get a point for leading a lap. So I think that's what Wetz wanted to do. Or sorry, what Wetz and Poulin wanted to do. 3 points, really, when it's under caution.
Yeah, I mean, you might as well.
As 3-1 to go from race control at the start-finish line. And this is going to shake it up. Lambert took 2 tires. Bailey second, third Cosman, fourth Stanley. And I think Frisch has to take a mental wake-up call, and he has to say, well, why did I do that? Why did I push that hard? I mean, I'd be in the same boat as him. Even if you're leading the points, you still want to be out front. You want to be controlling this race. You want to be controlling the championship. But I just think it was too early to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, you can't do that this early in the race. If this was the last 10 laps, yeah, that'd be totally expected, but...
Back green in Canada. Lambert leads Bailey, Cosman, and Stanley as Poteet rounds out the top 5. As Cosman side by side with Stanley. As Wett's trying to climb his way back to the lead in the 71. And will he make some moves that he doesn't want to? He turns the 93, corrects him into the wall. And the caution's out as Wetz is going to immediately claim that wreck. And I think, knowing Wetz, I think he's going to overdrive it to try and get up there.
Yeah, I mean, he could be rattled a little bit because that's really the hardest that anyone's knocked on his door all championship. I mean, we've seen Wetz through some really aggressive battles, but it hasn't been like this.
As Lambert, Bailey, Cosman, Stanley, Poteet. As the 93 of Johnson, we know he struggles a little bit with pace. I'm not sure if the 93 program's up to speed or whatnot, but I think Wetz just sent it in there. I mean, Johnson gave him room. I'm looking on my private monitor here. Johnson gave him room. 71 just drove it in way too deep. I think, like I mentioned before, I think he's just overcompensating for what happened.
Well, we're seeing the pressure mount here, definitely, then, aren't we, Josh?
As top 5 stay out, it's going to re-rack this field. Poulin goes up to 6th. 7th is going to be Frisch. 8th is going to be Baker. 9th is Wetz. 10th is going to be Fochesato, and 11th is going to be Johnson. They were able to beat out the back bumper of the 93, and it looks like everyone's going to stay on the lead lap if Johnson can get out of the pit lane before the field comes around. I don't think this field is going to be compacted up, as Lambert is going to lead again on the restart. And what will we see if this race can go green? What will we see from Brandon Lambert, who has struggled all season long in the 46 car? Green flag! Tire spin for both of them on the bottom. But he holds the lead into turn 1. And we know this track hasn't been used in quite some time after being renovated, so maybe the track's slippery. Maybe that's a thing that these drivers are caught out on. Poteet, the Chicagoland winner, along with Poulin, the Daytona winner, side by side. That's for about 5th. And Bailey got by Lambert for the lead.
Yeah, and one of the guys who we saw in the back here early on in this race, Jake Poulin, he's making his way back up.
It's now Wetz and Frisch. It's for 8th, but they're still side by side. And maybe Wetz is going to drive a little bit harder now. Doesn't want to give the 58 any inch. As Bailey's trying to check out. That's what he needs. He needs the 58 to struggle. He needs the other championship guys to struggle. And he needs to pull away.
Oh, and yeah, Frisch really aggressive there on the inside of the 22. Oh, Lambert off the wall.
Because this is not like the NASCAR format. It's not like they're going to reset and do a one-race shootout. If you miss one race in this playoff format in this last round, it severely hurts your ability to try and win the championship. And we know Bailey's we know he's capable. This is where you got to shine.
Yeah, and like we said, every round counts. Take it one round at a time. And
pulling away. As one around, I believe in the back, it's Baker in the 9. No caution. Fastest lap of the race, Bailey just reset it. It was a 19.746. That's a 10th faster than anybody else on the track right now. Cosman second. Stanley, Lambert, Wets the top 5. As one around, it's Poulin in the 21. And just how we talked about the 21 having a decent day, Daytona winner goes into the wall.
Yeah, and these guys getting really, really loose. We see it here with the 46 and the 60, the battle for third. Kind of dwindled away just because Lambert's tires got away from him here a little bit.
As gap is 1.1 seconds from Bailey to Cosman. And Frisch in 7th. He would not be getting any stage points. There's 12 laps until the stage. And we know that Bailey's got a point. Frisch, I don't think has led a lap yet today. So this, if Bailey can get these stage points and get a good finish, that'll reset his points and recover him very well to try and take the fight into Atlanta. Because this isn't helping Wets either. Wets is in 5th, battling Lambert for 4th. Because remember, the top 5 get stage points. It goes 5 down to 1. And those points are crucial. Just like a heat race win if you're a NASA fan. Crucial to winning you a championship potentially. As Wets got loose off of 2.
Yeah, and any extra points you can get, I mean, that's just there on the table for you for the taking. So.
As Lambert had to wheel it off of 4 there in the 46. Baker off the lead lap in the 9, staying way out of the way of the leaders. As he looped it for the Charlotte winner in 11th. As interestingly, because Wets has not won, Lambert has not won. So most of the top 7 have won. Most of this field has won this season, except for Wets, Lambert, Johnson, and Fochisato. That's 7 out of 11 cars. And it's not a bad season in parity-wise for wins. I mean, Frisch has pulled away with 6, but everybody else has either 1 or 2, except for Bailey. He's got 3. Frisch to the inside of Poteet, and that is for 5th, so that's going to put Frisch into the top 5 and give him a stage point.
Yeah, and we talk about how big of a lead that Frisch had, and then we just see it kind of dwindle away here last final stages of the championship.
To be fair, he had a huge lead on the points reset, and then he grenaded in Talladega, and he had that first round where he was kind of nowhere. I mean, he was simply leading the points because of his playoff points, because of his stage points. That collection in the beginning of the season when he went on that tear helped him not have to worry about that first round of the playoffs. But now this is where it gets important. And we talked about this last week because he was struggling last week. He always finds a way. Always finds a way to somehow pull it off. As the leaders are coming up on Poulin in the 21. Bailey has half a second over Cosman, and then it's a second and a half from Cosman to Stanley, and then it's another 2 seconds from Stanley to Wets. So this field slowly pulling away. As Bailey, car length and a half, maybe 2 from him to Cosman. As it looks like we might be having some satellite issues there. Sorry about that there, guys. We're coming to 2 to go in stage 1. And this is crucial for Bailey. Crucial for Cosman, too, really. I mean, Frisch is in 5th. He's going to get 1 point if it were to end right now. Bailey needs these points to stay ahead in the championship, or get close to catching up on the championship, I should say. So we got 1.2 miles left. Will Cosman make a desperate move to get this point, or will he drive past him? He was a 10th faster last lap. Bailey off of 4, white flag in the stage. As gap was 3/10. Doesn't look like 3/10. It looks like half a car length down the backstretch for Bailey. Rounding 3 and 4, Cosman can't get there. Green and white tablecloth to Bailey winning stage 1 in Rockingham. Cosman second. Third,
Yeah, and-
Stanley. Fourth, Wets. Fifth, Frisch.
I think Cosman just gave it a little bit too much coming out of turn 2, and that's what ended up costing him. If he would have had that position, he might have been able to make a run with that deep move into turn 3, but
As Bailey, Cosman, Stanley, Wets, Frisch. Let's bring in our stage 1 winner. As Joey Bailey, it's Josh Mertz in the HVMP commentary box. I was a little worried about last week when you weren't here, but you're really telling everyone that you're here for this championship still.
Yeah, we got a lot of ground to make up, but hopefully we could try to come back and try to do well these last couple races here. Off to a good start.
As I know you're entering pit lane, so I'll let you to it.
Thank you.
yeah. And Josh, I saw Joey, go through the rounds of social media and stuff like that before the race, and his mentality was just come back out in fashion and just do as well as I can, and we'll see where it ends up.
As pitting on the first stage break, as we go to the end here on HVMP here at the Jukasa Speedway in Ontario, Canada. As Bailey will lead the field out of the pit lane unless Stanley takes 4, or 2 he did. He took 4 rather. So it's going to be Bailey, Cosman, Stanley, Frisch in 4th, then Poteet, then Wets. As Brandon Nicholson down on pit lane while we have a moment. How are the points looking?
And thank you, Josh. Surprisingly enough, with Cosman's second place in that stage, it's going to put him in the lead, 1 point over second place, who is tied. Second place is going to be a tie between Wets and Frisch. They are 1 point behind the first place car of Cosman. It's crazy. I mean, this battle is so tight. We've got a 1 point difference between the top 3. I mean, it's crazy.
That's 13 points for Bailey to make up. If he gets some stage points here in this final stage, could help him dearly. Looks like we're going green again. Stage 2 beginning. Bailey leads Cosman into turn 1. He clears him in the 51. Lambert looks like he stacked up the field in the 46. Off of turn 2, Frisch clears Stanley and now sets his sights. Stanley drives into the points leader, and around the Michigan winner goes. No caution, but it certainly puts Frisch in a sticky situation. He got sent up the hill. Good avoidance. Now he's behind Wets, and Poteet underneath him.
Yeah, and kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place right now is Frisch.
He has no way around, and I don't think this track really has the banking to support 3 groups of racing. As much as we want it to, it's not that steep. Off of 2, Frisch clears the 22 of Poteet, sets his sails and sights on the 71 of Wets. It's from the commentary box. Bailey, Cosman, Wets, Frisch, Poteet, the top 5.
Yeah, and you do mention the banking here, but it is interesting to see, especially on the restarts, the different lines that are able to be run. And, eventually it all trickles down to the bottom. But with fresh tires, these guys can really make some moves, and we see the urgency on these restarts because of it.
As disappointing for Jeremy Stanley. Came back in Indianapolis a couple weeks ago. Won in Michigan. And looped it in the 60. The 60 program, I believe, announced a full season campaign next season for Solstice ProLine, so that's going to be a driver to watch for the championship and challenge Frisch and challenge Cosman. Cosman missed a couple races in the early portion of the season, but due to this consistency, was able to still make the playoffs. Now Wets just like how they ended earlier, Wetz and Frisch. It's 3rd and 4th, but Wetz leads him. Do you think Frisch is doing points in his head and he knows he's not the points leader right now? And did he just blow up? Did Frisch just blow up? No, he was on the clutch. As that was a big moment. I heard the engine turn off. Got really worried. He's in fuel saving mode right now. He's trying a different strategy. As Bailey, Cosman, Wetz, Frisch, Poteet, Lambert. As Poulin, Ricky Johnson, Nick Baker, Vincent Fotisato, and Jeremy Stanley. Off the lead lap. As Baker in the 9, we got 10 cars on the lead lap. Bailey's pulling away. The 130 laps. So the most laps led will be locked up. If my math is correct, it would be locked up at lap 65. Bailey's got 39 laps led. We'll just have to wait and see. As he leads, pulling out to a second, 1.1 seconds last lap. Now that it resets, he gains a 10th on Cosman. Wetz 3rd, 4th Poteet, 5th Lambert. As Frisch has to be fuel consaving. He's running 20.7, so he is on a completely different strategy than the rest of the field.
Yeah, as we saw him lock it up a little bit there coming into turn 3. Gotta save those tires as well.
You also got to worry about the fuel conservation strategy because it's a short track. You might get put a lap down if you conserve too hard.
Yeah, I mean, it goes both ways, though. I mean, you need tires on your machine, and you also need, you also need fuel. I mean, these guys can go and they can run the tires hard and stuff like that. But if it plays out in the grand scheme of things, is the tire fall off going to be enough? Is there going to be any strategy to be had by saving? As some tracks don't, so you never know. That's what makes fuel and tire strategy so exciting.
Everybody's in the 22nd bracket except for Bailey, 19.9. Let's see who runs this lap. 20. Everyone's really running a 20.1. Lambert ran a 20.5. Frisch ran a 19.9. So I think he ran a couple laps of fuel saving. He's the fastest man on the circuit right now. And this is the middle point of this race, where everyone's just going to run their strategy. It's been super clean. Granted, we had a couple issues, but these smaller fields, and we've said this before, smaller fields lead to a very clean race. The last couple weeks, I believe, we only had cautions due to the stage breaks. As Poteet in the 22 is a little slower than everybody else behind him. Poulin ran a 19.9 to Poteet, who ran a 20.3 last lap. And Poulin is so much quicker than the 22 right now, but it's just so hard to pass.
Yeah, and Josh, we have the fastest laps up here right now. I mean, fastest lap of the race so far by Bailey is a 19.7, so that's really not a whole lot of fall off. I'm not sure if Frisch is just falling off or if he thinks that there's going to be any strategy to be had by this, but I'm not sure if there is.
As his last lap was a 20.003. Everybody else ran a 20.1. So he had a couple laps to conserve. Lambert ran a 20.316. He's way up out of the groove in turns 1 and 2 there. I'm not sure if he just gave the spot to the 58 or not. As we know, Lambert has struggled all season long with his aerodynamic package for Solstice Racing. And it looks like he wheeled it off of turn 4 there. 20.2. He was equal on lap time, Frisch was, to Bailey. Cosman was faster, so was Wetz. Gap is 1.2 seconds from Bailey to Cosman. And this is the run, like I mentioned, that Bailey needs. And if we look at the laps led, because I'll have to confirm it down at pit lane with Brandon Nicholson, it looks like Bailey clinched laps led. Brandon, is that true?
Yeah, we still got a couple more laps, but with the way that Bailey's got this gap on second place of Cosman, I mean, it looks like Bailey's going to clinch this extra point.
But to put this into perspective, Dylan, this resets the points if we tentatively were to end the race right now, or end the race at the last stage. Cosman 33, Frisch and Wetz have 32, Poulin 17, Bailey with 21. So he is only 12 points back. And I think it's a decent chunk of points from first to second. But the one who's really got to be worried is Frisch.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it has not been his best race so far that's been run.
As 20.2, Cosman ran a 20 flat. Cosman's coming into it here. Wetz looks like he clutched it down the backstretch. I think these guys are really trying to avoid another pit stop. I think this might turn into fuel mileage / just go all out. Looks like Bailey got loose off of 2 there, saved it in the 51. Frisch is coming. He was faster than the top 3 that last lap as we begin lap number 80. 50 to go here in Canada.
Yeah, so this is when it's gonna really start getting tricky because we're seeing guys get loose all over the place around the racetrack.
As this track, like I mentioned in the opener, like I mentioned at the very, very beginning, this track, if memory serves me correctly, was called Cayuga. And it was around from the 60s and 70s. It was around until about 2008. Then the track closed. It was rebought, repurchased, completely rebuilt in 2017. So it's relatively fresh compared to other tracks that we've ran. As looks like Bailey officially claims the laps led, so that's going to help him a bunch in the points. 13 down from Cosman. This is huge. As Frisch is in 4th. He's 3.7 seconds. Let's see when that updates on timing and scoring. 3.6 seconds behind Bailey. Cosman 2nd, 3rd is Wetz. What have you seen so far today, Dylan, that excites you with these playoff drivers?
You know, I mean, it's never quit with these guys, and now we're really starting to see a strategy kind of start to form. And these guys thinking about towards the end of the race. And these guys are just, all they're trying to do is just put the first half of the race behind them and focus on the second half here and really try to drive it home. I mean, we've seen mistakes. Wetz and Frisch getting together was a huge ordeal that we saw. You know, and now these guys are just, you know, just hoping that the wind is going to blow in their direction, right?
As you get 30 points for winning the race, 27 for second. 3rd is 25. So the thing that Bailey has to hope for is he wins this race. That will put him, if the race were to end right now, that would put him at 3,000. Let me do quick mental math. 3,051. Cosman would be at 3,060. So this, he's got 9 points to make up. But I do believe you get stage points at the end of the race, although I could be wrong. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, and we're really seeing him get stalked right now by that 24. He's not giving up, and Cosman's getting really, really close to him now.
As Brandon Nicholson's been a huge help this season, from his pit lane reporting to his statisticianship in the last couple of races, pitting his Wetz, as Nicholson did confirm to me that no stage points for the end. So unless the Atlanta, we don't know Atlanta's stage lengths yet, unless Atlanta has 2 stages, it's going to be very hard for Bailey to claw something back. But we've seen crazier things happen. Let's see what Wetz does in the 71. 40 laps to go in Canada. Right sides jacking up on the 71. Let's see if the left sides will be jacked. Will he try something to get back to track position? No, 4 tires. has Frisch in third. Stanley looks like he pitted, and he's quicker than the 58. Poulin pits in the 21, but he runs it way wide. He's going to hit the commitment cone.
Oh, so we're going to see if that's going to generate a black flag or not.
We'll have to wait and see, but this is huge for the Daytona winner. I'm not too sure. Look at this battle for the lead between Bailey and Cosman. You know who likes this? Wetz likes this, because if Wetz can set some fast laps, and I say this every time that there's green flag pit strategy, and I wish personally that the American TV crews, they would make a bigger deal than this, because it's all about the delta and all about the pitting. Cosman pits in the 24. Was there a little bit of speeding? He locked it up. We'll just have to wait and see. Cosman has had terrible luck on pit lane in the 24 all season long.
Yeah, and we talk about that pit road consistency, and really, you give up an inch on pit road, it translates into a mile on the racetrack.
Bailey pits. Frisch pits. Let's see who cycles into the race lead. Bailey still led that lap, that last lap. Cosman exits the pit lane in the 24. He's going to be battling Wetz. The 71's got hotter tires. And he's going to be on the outside, battling the 24. Exiting the pit lane is the 51, who's going to get passed. Is he?
Yeah, and this is
That's
the race
the
for the
battle.
lead, Josh. This
That's
is the
the
race
battle.
for the lead.
Into turn 3, and Bailey's going to lose the lead. Cosman battling Wetz.
Clears himself out of turn 4.
As green flag pit stops, always a fun thing, but they're so difficult to follow sometimes. As Lambert currently leads, but he has not pitted yet. Cosman holds the lead in Jukasa. As Lambert's trying to pit, but he could not get down to pit lane this lap, so the 46 is going to be hindered this time. And
Yeah,
now Bailey's got to...
and Wetz really going to go at it here.
Bailey's got to do something. He's seeing his championship hopes drive away into the distance. Granted, Cosman's going to miss next week. So as Lambert spins on pit entry in the 46, as he's going to back it up into the middle of the racing groove. Not sure what he's doing, but he's going to correct it, and he's going to run it down to the pit lane. So the season goes from bad to worse for the 46.
Yeah, and like we said earlier, I mean, he's looking for a little bit of retribution here when it comes to this season, and it's just not looking good for Lambert right now.
As hopefully the multi-time Solstice champion and the inaugural NASA champion can have some better luck next season in Solstice. As Solstice ProLine, I don't think we've gotten a green light on when the season's going yet, but there is 2 seasons in 2019, and we will be back with you in a few months' time. As we've been caution-free since the stage restart. If you're just joining us here on High Voltage Media Productions, it's been a crazy race. As some green flag pit stops, we had Wetz and Frisch tangle. We had some strategy. And Cosman, who is leading the race, who will not be here in Atlanta next week, kind of seals his championship 1 week early, unfortunately. He just wants to take this W on short tracks this season. He won in Pensacola, Florida, earlier in the season, dominated that race, in fact, and he's just reset fastest lap. No, he is not. I stand corrected. He is still 7 hundredths off of Bailey's fast lap.
You know, and Josh, I'm just staring here watching the top 3 right now go around the racetrack, and all 3 of these guys are really trying to battle back from a lot of adversity. Like you said, I mean, when you miss races on the schedule, it really sucks. And so we see, you know, the 24 trying to keep up what lead he can going into next week. We see the 51 trying to make up from last week, and we see Wetz, who's right in there in the hunt and in the mix of things, and he doesn't want to lose any points to these guys.
As Wetz, if the race were to end right now, Wetz would be 3rd. He'd get 25 points. Frisch would be 4th. He'd get 23 points. Now, The reason why this is a big deal, again, Cosman's not going to be here next week. He might be tentatively leading the points at 3,033, but as soon as he doesn't show up for next week, that writes him off for the championship. So that immediately puts Wetz into the points lead, tentatively. That is huge for the 71 because he hasn't won a race this season. It simply proves, even in a playoff format, you don't have to win a race, just like I've mentioned, Ryan Newman, 2014.
Yeah, and if Wetz could pull that feat off, that would be amazing, because it's not a win you're in, a win you win situation. It's who can. It's still about the good old roots in NASCAR. Who can string together the best championship run, and who can perform the best all season. And then you add those little, stage things in there, and the breakup in the points, and that's what makes it exciting. And those are the different setbacks you have to overcome as a driver and be able to string this championship together.
There's so many different people, of course, in the world, and so many people say, oh, playoffs are artificial, or stage racing's artificial, or yada yada, they like the longer full distance races. And I gotta think, I was watching, I can't remember which race it was, but I was watching it, and I was telling myself, racing's evolving. You gotta think that, racing has been the same for years and years and years, and yes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but this new format, granted, it's not new now. It's going to be 5 years old this year, but this and the stage racing, it really it kind of ties it, as we got a battle for the lead, ties it back kind of to the dirt tracks. The stages are kind of like heat races, and then the playoffs, they're kind of big chunks of heat races. You have to be good on a long run for the end and a heat race for a short run.
Well, and people are going to call what it is. I mean, look at the fair catch rule in NFL. When that came around whenever that came around, way back in the day, people thought that was going to kill football because you couldn't kill, literally, your other competitor when he was trying to go for a catch. If you popped a ball up in the air, it was all about how hard you could run him to the ground after that. And they came out with the fair catch rule. They came out with icing in hockey. A lot of those guys said, oh, no, this is going to kill the sport, but really, it's made some improvements and changed the game so much to where it induces strategy, which is a good thing.
As Frisch is cleared of all the lap traffic, and he wants to get these points. Cosman still holds the lead. We're on lap number now, 112 of 130 here in Ontario, Canada. Cosman leads. It was half a second from him to Bailey. Bailey's got to search for a different line. Bailey needs every point, if he wants to try and claw this championship back. If the race finished right now, Cosman would be 3,062. Wetz 3,057. Bailey, looks like that must be Frisch, 3,055. Bailey 3,048. And Poulin 3,038. So Bailey's mental math, 14 points back. So he needs these 3 points. And he wants to get 4 wins on the season.
Oh, yeah, but these are all resources that these drivers don't have, that we have. And so we're able to calculate live points and be able to do that stuff in our head. These guys are focused on just one thing and one thing only, which is finishing as best as they can in the race. And points are going to settle out how they will, but, when you see some of your other competitors run away from you and run ahead of you, all you know is you got to beat them.
As Bailey, I think Bailey's just going to have to look out the windshield and just try and force Cosman into a mistake, but we know Cosman is calm, cool, and collected.
And there's a lot that can happen in these last 15 laps. We've seen it.
And we know that Cosman wants to make it 2 wins this season. Bailey wants 4. Wetz wants a win. Frisch would like to make 7. I mean, they're going to run out of space for winter stickers on that 58 at some point. It's just like the 51 truck of Kyle Busch when Greg Biffle won at Texas. I thought they were going to run out of space for the winter stickers on that truck.
Yeah, you might as well just put it on the hood at that point.
As Fogisato's got some transponder issues in the 37. He stays out of the way of the leaders. So the second time But the 37, second or third time, we'll have to look, that he has appeared this season in the 37, trying to get some seat time. Hopefully can make a stronger campaign next season.
And Josh, I hate to avoid the elephant in the room, but Michael Frisch is really making a run at the 71 of Chris Wetz here.
He is, but will he have enough time? We're on lap 120 of 130. There's 10 laps to go. Now there's a lapped car in the way. And will Fochesato prove a little difficult? Frisch looks like he got a little bit up out of the groove there in turns 1 and 2. Cosman is pulling away from Bailey. It was 0.54. Actually, now it's 0.35. Bailey's quicker than him by 0.2 of a second. Frisch was faster than Wetz by a 1/10. This battle for first and the battle for third ramping up as Fochesato in the 37 stays out of the way of the points leaders. And Bailey's got to do something.
Wetz up into the wall.
As Bailey's got to do something back up to the race lead. As we race back to the end, if it's a caution in the last 10 laps.
You know, and Josh, we've seen it so many times here that the guy in second really has something up his sleeve that we don't know about. So could this be one of those races here between Bailey and Cosman? I have to see.
As Nick Baker retires in the 9 from 10th position, that gives us 10 cars still on track, 8 of which are on the lead lap. They ran equal lap times for first and second. The battle is for third and fourth for Michael Frisch and Chris Wetz. If Frisch gets by Wetz, this will give him 3 more points and give him a better hold of the championship.
Yeah, and Frisch's car right now looking really, really strong.
But you know Wetz will not give him this spot easy. As Wetz, loose at a 2.
Making his bumper wide.
Frisch had to get out of the gas. As hopefully we can bring that side-by-side view up to watch these 2 battles that we have to unfold here in Canada. As Wetz looks like he killed his tires up out of the groove as the 71. Frisch nearly hits him again. As the battle for the lead, coming to 4 to go. Cosman over Bailey. That has calmed down. This is the battle for third with Wetz and Frisch. And Wetz has to run that little higher groove, leave the door open for Frisch, but get the run off the corner to keep him cleared.
Oh, he's knocking on his door now.
They nearly hit again in turns 3 and 4. Frisch gets a really good run off the corner.
Oh, and they make contact again. What's up into the wall?
And good save for Wetz.
Oh.
But is that going to light a fire underneath him where he's going to take out the 58?
Oh,
2 to go.
Look at him now.
2 to go for Cosman. You got to take no prisoners when you're battling for a championship. And Joey Bailey, can he take the fight? He was same pace lap-wise as Cosman. He's going to soar it into 3. And Wetz looks like he bounced it off the wall, exiting 2. White flag for Cosman in Canada. And what did we say at the opening? How we thought that he would be good at a track like this because he won in Pensacola. Off of 2. Can Bailey soar it into 3? He may not be here next week, but he stamped his authority on the smaller tracks as Cosman wins in Canada over Joey Bailey. As Frisch comes home 3rd, Wetz is going to come home 4th. 5th is Poulin. As all of the playoff drivers in the top 5.
Yeah, and that's exactly what you want. That's exactly what you need. All those guys up there battling for the, battling for the win, battling for the top 5. See a bunch of congratulations from Lambert. I'm sure this post-race interview is going to be full of color, I suppose you could say, as Cosman always gives us a good insight as to how his race went, and when he's on top of the world right now, winning.
As we'll We'll pull the race winner onto the scanner here, and I'll let you handle that interview.
Yeah, so Cosman, I mean, we should be in the business of like psychics, not, broadcasting. I don't know where we're doing broadcasting, but we predicted with that strong run that you had in happy hour there, and we mentioned how good you are at short tracks, winning at 5 flags, that this would be one of the ones that would be circled off on your list and that you'd really, capitalize on. And we saw you do that today. Just walk us through kind of that intense last little bit there with uh, between you and Joey Bailey.
It was a really fun run. You kind of had to be. I mean, you didn't have to save too much, but you could go like 90% all race, and yeah, that's what I did, and I'm absolutely exhausted. It's the first race at the track, and I'm really happy to be the first winner.
And we talked about that, and coming to a unique racetrack like this, how much more does that add to the intensity, and how much more adversity do you have to fight through with some place that you never raced before?
Not much. It was kind of similar to various other tracks. Turn 4 for a lot, like 5 flags. Funny enough. And 1 and 2, sorry, were just they were just, I don't know, kind of a normal short track corner. It was really fun though. Really low grip. Kind of struggled a little bit on throttle control and strategy. That's what I used to get at the lead. And once I got the lead, I knew I can hold Joey off.
Yeah, and Cosman, I mean, hopefully you're going to be here next week, but if you do have other commitments, what is this kind of a statement that you can make right now here with the last few races to go here in the championship? What does that make on?
Unfortunately, something unforeseen happened, and I'm leaving on Monday, so I won't be here Thursday. Figures, right? Win the race and have a chance, and gotta go. But I don't know. I just go week by week, track by track. If I can have fun and win it, that winning is just a bonus. Having fun is the most priority. It's the highest priority I can have in racing.
Yeah, and we did talk about that, stage by stage, race by race, segment by segment. That's what you got to do to be able to, have fun and ultimately string together a championship. It is going to be unfortunate to not see you defend this good momentum you have going on. Josh, do you have anything for Cosman?
As I just want to mention before we let you go, my friend, that hopefully, in your sake, that Wets and Frisch and Bailey and Poulin all have terrible races, because tentatively you're leading the points by 7. With the last
Wow.
place points, you might, if all if the stars align and all the planets align, you might
Nah,
actually
they'll
win
get
the
stage
championship
points.
without being here.
I hope not, honestly, because that would just suck. That would just suck for the rest of the guys. They worked harder than I did. Like they showed up more often than I was able to, and it would just suck for them.
As congratulations on the win and a great season. If for sure you can't make it next week, as hopefully we see you next season and you continue the momentum.
Thanks, guys. I'll think about it. I'll see what I can do for sure.
Yeah, and Brandon, if we got you in here, you've been our eye in the sky all day. A lot of hard work. What did you see this race?
Well, I've seen the points just heating up. Looks like Frisch has just got a teensy bit over Wets, and this next week it's just gonna be cutting it close. I mean, this points battle is heating up super hard. I mean, this championship battle is gonna be intense going into Atlanta next week.
As like we mentioned, if we tentatively look at the points, Cosman leads with 3,062. Frisch leads with, or Frisch is second, sorry, with 3,059. Wets with 3,055. Bailey with 3,048. Poulin with 3,038. So a little bit over generous with that 7-point gap, but the points weren't auto updated. So let's blame not Brandon Nicholson, blame our program here, as it didn't update in time. So I mean, this is going to be interesting because it's a 5-point lead. Cosman's leading, but we have to act like he's not, because he's not going to be here. So Frisch 4 points over Wetz, and then Bailey is 11 points behind Frisch. I mean, if Bailey were to string together a couple good stages, and say there is 3 stages next week, if he wins those stages and say Frisch doesn't finish in the top 5, that instantly puts Bailey into the points lead, into the points race. And that will be redemption for the 51. But of course, we don't know until the cars roll up as to how many stages there'll be. What do you guys think about, Dylan? What do you think about tonight? What do you think about next week and the season so far?
You know, it's been fantastic. It's just been following same suit as this whole season has been. Just fantastic, intense racing. We saw it really, really ramp up there the first stage, which we could almost predict that like wildfire. I mean, it's gonna happen. Love seeing the intensity to the first stage, try to make all those points up, and fantastic race tonight. Took some strategy. And these guys really gave it their all. I don't know what else you could ask for, honestly.
As Brandon, you got anything before we finish up?
Yeah, I just gotta say that this last race is just gonna be intense. I mean, this battle for the ProLine Championship has been intense all season, and just building up to this last race. I mean, it's gonna be just such a battle for this championship. I mean, you guys gotta tune in next week.
As it's been a long journey, all season long. It's going to come down to one race, and we'd say realistically about 2 to 3 drivers, as they've worked for this point all season long, and it's going to be absolutely amazing as we go to Hampton, Georgia next week to seal off the championship. As it's been a crazy race here in Ontario, Canada, and like we mentioned, Hampton, Georgia next week to seal this championship up. We congratulate Cosman on a great season for him and a great win tonight. From all of us here at HVMP, from Brandon Nicholson, Dylan Livingood, I am Josh Mertz. Buckle your seatbelts. It's going to be great next week. But until then, so long, everyone.